My dad was in the army, and being in the army was compulsory. So he was targeted because of his political opinions, and he was generally just, arrested and taken into custody, and he was tortured on many occasions, and he knew that if we didn't leave Iraq, things would get really bad, and he felt that he wasn't going to make it. So they made a decision, my parents made a decision to have us smuggled out of Iraq into the bordering country of Iran. So after 4 years of being refugees seeking protection in Iran, we were granted a humanitarian visa to come to Australia.
Yeah, so one of my favourite charities is Refugee Council of Australia, and that's probably only been in the last 3 years, I think, since the whole border crisis and the refugee crisis. For me, the stimulus came from the whole offshore detention centre issue and that frustration that you just couldn't do anything about it. And I just, like all good Australians, you're just mortified at the idea of putting refugees in jails offshore. We refer to the illegal boat people, the illegal arrivals, and there's nothing illegal about that. And I thought, wow, I really want to do something about that. And that was probably the real driver to get involved with the Refugee Council.
We want to be able to continue to advocate for people's needs and people's rights, and the only way we can do it is by the support of organisations such as VivCourt.
And Refugee Council is an amazing organisation because it sits as an umbrella organisation over all these disparate refugee groups, and it has the ear of government. And if you're ever going to change something in a really fundamental way, it'll be through policy. And then when I gave them a donation first up, and I had no idea how parlous their financial situation was and how they work on literally the smell of an oily rag. And so you've got this sort of ragtag group of a dozen people which make up the Refugee Council of Australia with a whole lot of volunteers under them, taking on the might of our border force, the Peter Duttons, with almost no money, no resources and no voice, to be able to stand up to them and actually make change.
An example of the work that the Refugee Council carried out with its members, there was an additional intake of 12,000 refugees from the conflict areas of Syria and Iraq. So this kind of work has enabled us to advocate for the needs of people in those regions, and it has actually shaped up some of the policy around the refugee intake.
I knew the lady that was the General Manager at Refugee Council at the time, and I phoned her up to say that I wanted to do this donation, and she burst into tears and I burst into tears. It was fantastic. It's really, that feeling is just great that you can have, you can experience what it means to them to give that money to them. So it's, and you almost feel embarrassed yourself because all you're doing is giving money.
So we look at the national and the international level of the difference that organisations such as Refugee Council of Australia are making. But without the support of organisations such as VivCourt, that cannot be done.
Every dollar you give to them has I don't even know how you work out the social return on dollar, but for me it's almost not calculable because you're talking about people's lives.
Through the Refugee Council and the work that I've done with them, I've been able to feel empowered and feel that my voice is being heard.